Hey folks, Eli here with Watershed Fly Shop. We got some fun stuff for you today. We will be tying some blue-winged olives. We're going to do some nymphs, or a nymph, a emerger, and a dry pattern all in one video, which is a little bit odd, but you'll see why. Super easy to tie, great producing patterns, super clean, fun to fish. If you plan on doing any kind of off-season trout fishing, I guess if you don't plan on doing any off-season trout fishing, I hope this changes your mind, because these are great patterns. They're a great bug. They come out when the weather's pretty poor, so you got to break out that cold weather gear. But I promise you, the trout fishing is not over for the year. It's going to keep going, and these guys are going to be a big part of it. So check it out. Enjoy these couple of flies, and I hope you tie some up and we see you on the water this winter. Thanks, guys. All right. Getting started on our trio of Baetis patterns. We're naturally going to start off with the nymph. So we've got just a standard size 18 nymph hook there, the 3/32 mottled tungsten bead from Hairline. You can use any bead you want for this in that 3/32 size, but I like the model beads. Thread we're using is the 16-aught olive from Vivis. And here we go. Alright, so just go ahead and start your thread. We're going to tie in our tail first. It's going to be this light colored Coq de Leon. I know it's got some fancy name for this color, but I don't know what it is. So let's grab those out. The nice thing about Coq de Leon is that straight off the feather, it comes just about perfectly lined up. So we're just going to measure out about a shank length, tie that tailing material in, and then trim that sucker out real quick. We had to get this camera really close for these little flies, and so I'm tying in a very uncomfortable position. There you go. It's a little Coq de Leon tail. We're just going to even out the body the best we can, because we're going to be wrapping peacock quill, and they can be a little temperamental. So I already stripped this quill. And then a little trick that I like to use for Baetis nymphs or PMD nymphs, or really whatever nymphs you're using, is to just take that peacock quill and just take a pen to it. I took this this olive Copic marker to it. You know, you can buy dyed quills in whatever colors you like, but I think just stripping quills and then using a marker to color them up the way you want is the better way to do it, especially if you plan on tying more than one color of fly. There you go. We got just a little bit of taper going here. A little bit bigger body, and then we will go ahead and wrap that quill. So anybody who's ever worked with quills before knows that they're a huge pain in the butt to wrap. Not because they're hard to wrap, just because they really like to break, especially when you don't want them to. So we're going to take this one a little slower. You can also use, if you have a rotary vise, you can use the rotary feature. I just prefer wrapping stuff the good old-fashioned way. I feel like you get a little bit tighter wrap. You can really place that segmentation the way you want it. Alright, so we're going to go just about up to the bead, not quite to the bead. Throw that thread over the top there with your left hand, and then throw a couple wraps in. Alright, so if you've worked with peacock quills before, the other thing that you know is that these little suckers are not very durable. So what we're going to do is just throw a quick little couple turn whip finish in there. Pop that thread out. Then we're going to throw some UV resin. For this one I'm using the Loon Flow clear resin. And for this part, it's really nice to use the rotary feature of your vise if you've got it. And just throw a little bit on there. As you go around. And what that'll do is a couple things. It adds a bunch of durability. And it also just does a really cool job of making it glossy and look pretty slick. Alright, the other thing that I gotta say, this Loon Infinity Light has been the greatest thing that I've used for curing any of the UV resins. It's been awesome. It's faster, it's brighter, it's rechargeable, so you don't have to worry about the batteries dying on you. It's probably what I'm going to use until they come out with something cooler. But if you are looking for a higher end UV lamp to cure all your resins and whatnot, that's the one I would definitely recommend. Okay, so now we're going to throw a little bit of a curveball in there. We're not going to do olive. The rest of this fly is pretty much olive except for the tail. We're going to do some golden brown iced up. Now that's for a couple reasons. One, it's like halfway to a hot spot. It's not like hot pink or anything, but it's definitely brighter than the rest of the fly. The other reason, if you've ever looked at natural Baetis nymphs, they are more brown than they are olive. So I do like adding a little bit of brown, a little bit of that natural tone, and then you're just going to take a little bit of it and really dub it on there tight. I took way too much. Yeah, this is really just a very small little collar, maybe 1 or 2 turns. So there's 1 and 2. I could use a little bit more than that. I don't know if you saw that, but those first couple wraps kind of sucked up there into the bead and didn't really get much in the way of dubbing. There we go, that's much better. Just a nice light little collar on there. Throw a couple whip finishes in and you're good. Now this isn't a perfectly anatomically correct Baetis nymph by any means. But with nymphs, you want something that's the right shape, the right color, and it sinks fast. So all 3 of those properties, pretty darn well covered in this cool little guy. And it is very, very quick to tie. So if you need a quick to tie, easy Baetis nymph that catches a lot of fish and does really well either by itself or as a dropper to a dry fly, that's your guy. Alright, up next on our little Baetis series of flies, we are doing an emerger pattern called the RS2. It's a great little fly. You can do it in a bunch of colors, bunch of different bugs, bunch of different sizes. Fishes well as a sunken emerger in a nymph rig. Fishes well as an emerger in the film, and it can also fish well as a dropper to a dry fly. So there's a lot of good ways to fish it during a Baetis hatch. We're doing it on a size 18 nymph hook, 60-knot olive thread again, and then we're going to use that same light colored Coq de Leon for the tailing material. This one we're just going to do a super easy little shank length tail. See how that looks. A little shorter. There you go. Yeah, so this is a super easy fly to tie. Dubbing body, little tail, little CDC wing, and you're good to go. Piece of cake. Alright, just bring your thread all the way back to the back, and we'll start our dubbing body. I'm working with this microfine blue wing olive dry fly dub from Hairline. You can use superfine from Hairline. You can use whatever dry fly dubbing you like. You also don't have to use dry fly dubbing. You can use Hair's dubbing or whatever you like. I just like using dry fly dubbing because you can make a really fine dubbing noodle with it. You can make a really thin body, and it just looks pretty clean. So that's my reasons, but it doesn't necessarily have to be dry fly dub. It's just what I like to use. So we're going to build a little bit of taper into this body, not a ton. Alright, so I'm going to stop right there so that we can tie our wing in. All we're using for our wing is these little puffs of Natural Done CDC. These are the oiler puffs. I like using them. They're shorter fibered, so you can't palmer them, but they're much, much nicer for using in wings and this kind of stuff. All the tips are aligned, and they're super fluffy and move really good in the water and hold bubbles really nicely. The other nice thing is you can just tie them in kind of whatever length, and then pull that stem to customize where that wing ends up. And this is a pretty short winged bug, so I'll leave it right about there. Wrap that up. Take that stem, get it out of there. All we're going to do is pick up, dubbing that body right here in front. You got to wrap back to meet that little shoulder right there. There you go. Alright, there it is, that wing pulled to the side a little bit. There you go. That is it. Super easy, little dubbing body, RS2, little puff of CDC, a little bit of dubbing, a little bit of tailing material, and you are good to go with an emerger pattern. Super easy to tie, super quick to tie, nice and durable, and they fish really well. Alright, and last but not least, we have the adult blue wing olive. We're going to be tying a little dry fly for it. We're starting off with Firehole 419, size 16, olive 16/0 thread again, and here we go. So, just a reminder, all these bugs that I'm tying here and in these sizes are what we use around these parts. So if you've got, smaller bugs in your area, bigger bugs in your area, obviously adjust to that. Whatever works. These are just my favorite patterns for blue wing olives this time of year in the valley, and then also out in eastern Oregon a little bit. Alright, so for that tail, we're going to do the same deal, just about a shank length. Let's make sure that's tight first. Just about a shank length, and we're going to be using the same light colored Coq de Leon, but I like to pull from a little farther down on the feather for these guys, get the darker fibers. Let's see, there you go. Line them up a little bit better, slap them on there. Trim that stuff out and get on down to the next step. So for this fly, we are going to be doing a thread body. So you don't see it all that often on dry flies. It's a really easy way to make smaller dry flies look super clean, look super good. That, and it's more durable than a lot of your quill body flies or biot body flies, stuff that looks cooler. With dry flies, you're all about size, profile, and color. And so, the segmentation of biots and quills looks really cool, but as far as one fishing better than the other, I'm not sure if there's a huge difference. I haven't been able to find a huge difference, let's just say it that way. So we're going to be doing a little CDC wing on this guy. Once again, we're using those natural done oiler puffs from Hairline. We're going to do a pretty short wing again. So we're tying this wing in kind of compare-done style, and then we'll be wrapping hackle around it. So let's see if we can get in there real close without cutting too much of the other stuff. This is where micro tip scissors really come in handy, but I don't have any right now. Alright, so there's our wing. That's what we're working with for the wing. So now all we got to do is come back here, build a little bit of body taper, get it a little bit bigger, give it a little more profile. Go from there. So these blue wing olives, these betas, are not very substantial bugs. They're pretty skinny. So it's not such a bad thing just to do a really nice and simple thread body. Let's make sure that wing's nice and even. And we're going to tie in our hackle. I'm just using some kind of medium done saddle hackle. There's that for you to look at. So we've got some capes coming in, but we've also got a bunch of the whiting 100 packs, which if you're just starting out as a dry fly tyer, you should definitely give a look to. It's a really cool way to get your hackle. Gives you the opportunity to try a bunch of different colors and sizes without committing too much to one whole cape or saddle. Alright, so I was just turning that one time to make sure it's going to lay down the way I want it to. We're going to come through here and just throw a little bit of dubbing down on the thorax. Super easy way to make it look better. Also, it makes it a little more durable because when that hackle has something to bite into, it's not as exposed, it doesn't roll as bad, and it's not going to catch teeth. Even on those smaller fish, they've got some sharp teeth. They're pretty good at tearing apart dry flies. So get that going. This is just a little bit of dubbing, and we're just going to wrap it on this front kind of third of the fly. A little bit behind the wing, pull it back, a little bit in front of the wing. Yeah, so this is not a super big, complicated dry fly pattern. This is just a get her done, quick to tie Betis pattern that has worked really good for me in the past. Pull that forward, get those wraps a little bit closer. One more behind the wing. Pull that wing back. Do a couple turns in front of the wing. And then call her a day. So finishing dry fly hackle on small hooks can be a very hard task, especially when you're using fine hackle. But I've found that if you just kind of take it slow and really make sure to lock your stuff down behind that eye, you'll be good to go. That's pretty much my only tip for you, is just take it slow, keep tension on everything, tension on your feather, tension on your thread. And the other thing is you will trap down fibers. I've got these little guys sticking out the front here, and that's okay. You just come in and trim them out the best you can and clean them up, and it's not going to change the way the fly fishes. It's not going to change the way that it's tied or how many fish it catches. So just don't feel bad about cleaning up after you're already done tying the fly. All right, we're gonna come in here with a quick little whip finish, just a couple turns, and that will be that. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed this little intro guide to the Baetis life cycle. Baetis nymph, Baetis emerger, and then finally a little Baetis dry fly. Coming up here soon, as the weather cools down and gets a little nastier, you're going to see more and more of these bugs coming out to party. And it's a great thing because when everybody goes inside when it gets cold, the Baetis come out to party and the fishing can be really, really good in the valley and just about everywhere else as well. So if you got any questions, if you need some materials or some tricks or tips on how to tie these, feel free to come in, ask me some questions, and we'll get you all set up and ready to go out and catch some fish this winter. All right, thanks guys. Have a good one.